Unfortunately, we're back here again looking for a new defensive coordinator. What is up, Finn fans? Yes, I have candidates that I think the Dolphins should go for. One that is rumored and some other stuff. So I wanted to make all this stuff apparent and, take my notes and talk about how they did in certain places and all that stuff before I made this video. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going around. A lot of rumors going around of why, and Vic did this, and this is the reason Vic left, and yada yada blah blah blah. I will say this: I have no sources. I'm not going to come on here and say my sources say. My sources say. I have no sources. I have people who have sources, like I can talk to Omar Kelly. And I can talk to certain people and talk to Big O, and I can talk to people that have sources. I don't have any sources, and you'll never see me come on here and say, my sources say this, and my sources, because I don't have any. But I can tell you what I'm hearing, and if you notice, that's what I say. Well, I'm hearing this. I have no sources. But there is an article that came out yesterday from Daniel, who is a very good writer for the Miami Herald. And he said something in here that I found very interesting. And this is what he said. It kind of coincides with Javon Holland kicking rocks, Javon Holland's dad talking about the iPhone 1, Jalen Ramsey liking Cam Smith being unlocked. Like, it kind of coincides with that. He says, the move didn't come as a surprise to multiple players and was one seemingly made as much because of where Fangio stood with players as it did with X's and O's. Fangio made strategic and personal decisions throughout the season that confused and at times frustrated players. Multiple league sources said Fangio had his favorites, but didn't have a good relationship with several players on the defense. And a Week 4 loss to the Buffalo Bills at 48-20 defeat, Fangio opted against using corner Xavier Howard to shadow wide receiver Stephon Diggs, who caught 6 passes for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. Howard, who has shadowed elite receivers throughout his career, would later say that he wanted the opportunity to follow Diggs. When Howard was out for Week 15 against the Jets, Ramsey successfully shadowed Garrett Wilson, a move that Fangio said was a late change once Howard was ruled out. Weeks later, the Miami faced Dallas Cowboys. Ramsey was asked about the possibility of shadowing CeeDee Lamb. I don't think that's the game plan. I don't think that's my role in this defense, Ramsey said. So again, it kind of coincides with this whole shebang about the players and all that stuff. Now, again, I'm not coming on here to bash Vic Fangio. I'm not coming on here to say, oh, see, Vic sucked and it's a good thing he's gone, because he was a good defensive coordinator. Again, I talked about at the end of the season what he did with the little we had and all that stuff. So I'm not the type of fan that, say Christian Wilkins goes and signs with somebody else, I'm not going to be that fan who's like, oh, he sucks anyway, and good thing we let him go. Because, like when Gesicki went to the Patriots, you didn't hear me say, oh, you're getting nothing and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not that type of fan. You recognize when the player's good, and unfortunately, they went to another team. What are you going to do about it? Same thing with Vic Fangio. He was a good defensive coordinator. A lot of people knocked him until all of a sudden it started working. We started playing really well. We had a top 10 defense, and all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, all right. There was turmoil. And obviously I told you guys a lot that throughout the first half of the season, and even the players, and even who was interviewed? One of the players was interviewed and said, was it Holland? I think it was Javon Holland. Yeah, it was Javon Holland. It was during Hard Knocks how he was saying that it took a minute for them to understand the defense. And again, that was no surprise to us that Vic Fangio is just that old style coach. Again, like his dad said, the iPhone 1, where you're going to learn my style. I'm not going to accommodate you. You're going to learn what I can do, blah, blah, blah. And then he started to accommodate and blitzed and did all these other things, and they started playing well. But there was some type of, whether it's Vic wanting to go back to Philly and go back to Pennsylvania where his family is, which is being reported, whether Vic's going to go to the Chargers where Jim Harbaugh is now, whether it's the cap space and he can't get players he wants. That's a rumor I'm hearing. Whether it's, again, the players were unhappy and Mike McDaniel, is a player's coach and he listens to them and he wants them to be happy. The move has been made. So now we're here. Now we're in a situation where I have a list of defensive coordinators that I would like the Dolphins to bring in. I have one on here that I want. I wanted Vic Fangio last year. I wanted Vic Fangio the year before. I got him in the second year. I didn't get him in the first year. I have one name on this list that I want. Will they go out and get him? I don't know. But there's a name on here that I want, and I'm going to name him. I'm not going to name him last because there's a few names on here that aren't going to happen, but it's just fun to throw out there. But I'm going to name the name of the guy that I want last in the possibilities. How about that? So we'll skip him. Sean Desai. Bears defensive coordinator in 2021. He had the sixth best defense, and 22 in points given up, 22nd in points given up. He's a possibility. Did well with Seattle. Is that Sean Desai who did well with Seattle? I think. No, sorry, that's Chris Richard, who's another guy I'm going to talk about. He's a good defensive coordinator, like I said, with the Bears. Kind of learned that Vic Fangio system. If you want that style of thing, I will say this: the guys that I'm going to name that I want have already been defensive coordinators. Not saying that Anthony Campanile won't be one, but I would prefer a guy to have done it already, kind of like I wanted with the head coach and I want with the offensive coordinator. So Sean Desai is a name that's being thrown out there. Another name that's being thrown out there that I don't want, and I understand he had a very good year, his first year being a defensive coordinator, got him a head coaching job, but that's Brandon Staley. And that's a name I've been seeing being thrown out too much. When he was with the Rams and he was their defensive coordinator in 2020, they had the number one total defense and the number one scoring defense. They had now don't get me wrong, they had Jalen Ramsey, they had Ndamukong Suh, they had Aaron Donald, they had a good defensive players, but he also was a very good defensive coordinator. That being said, and again, there's situations where you become the head coach and you just can't do it, and you kind of slack in other areas because the Chargers defense has sucked, and they have some good defensive players on their side. But look at Brian Flores, right? But our defense was good with Brian Flores, but then as a head coach, he wasn't good. Goes and just becomes a defensive coordinator for the Vikings. He's good. No, I don't want Brandon Staley. He had one good year, and all I need is for him to come here and make the same dumb mistakes and make the same dumb decisions he did with the Chargers and just waste the years that we don't have. This is the defensive coordinator search should be one that is going to be an instant success and instant gratification because we don't have much time, especially with the cap situation, which I talked about. Other one, Chris Richard, like I said, he was with Seattle from 2015 to 2017. In 2015, as their defensive coordinator, first in points for, second in yards, 2016, third in points for, fifth in yards, 2017, 13th in points, 11th in yards. So he is a good defensive coordinator. I wouldn't mind Chris Richards. At one point, I know we did bring him in for an interview. Then you have Avero, who coached Bradley Chubb in 2022. He coached Jalen Ramsey in 2021 as the Rams secondary coach. And as the defensive coordinator in Denver in 2022, 14th in points for, 7th in yards. So, those are some names that I wouldn't be upset with. The only one, Brandon Staley. Then you have Ronaldo Hill, who is with us. He came over with Vic Fangio. And you have Anthony Campanile. Those are more interior guys that, we would promote up if Ronaldo Hill doesn't follow Vic Fangio wherever he goes. That's another situation where you kind of have to sit back and wait on that. So those are the possible names, right? You got Sean Desai, Brandon Staley, Chris Richards, and Avero are possibilities. Now, before I get to, probably not, but it's a man can dream, the guy I want, and that's Wink Martindale. He was the Ravens defensive coordinator from 2018 to 2021. He had a top 7 defense 3 times, and he had a top 3 scoring defense the entire time he was the defensive coordinator. I understand he went over to the Giants and it wasn't great, and he got fired, but I want Wink Martindale. If we didn't get Fangio, I wanted Wink Martindale, and that's who I want. Fangio's gone. Thank you for what you did. You helped in certain aspects. Wink Martindale is my guy. That's the name I'm circling. That's the name I'm praying. That's the name I'm hoping Stephen Ross and Chris Greer are like, we need another guy that Mike McDaniel doesn't need to focus on the defense. This guy can just run the defense, and it's Wink Martindale. To me personally, that's who I want. Please go out and get him, sign him, and have him fix this defense. Now, are we going to run that 3-4-4-3 defense? I don't know. If we do bring him in, I will look at what defense he runs like I did for Vic Fangio. Now we go to the section of this video where these are names I'm going to throw at you that aren't coming. Why not, though? Jack Del Rio. He's not a bad defensive coordinator, and he's had head coaching duties, and I think he could help this team a lot. Here's the one, and I can already feel people in the comments section going, no! Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera is he's a good defensive coordinator. Not that great of a head coach. He did get to a Super Bowl once, but he's a pretty good defensive coordinator. And again, if you notice with some of these names that I want, they've been defensive coordinators already. Like Anthony Campanile, I wouldn't be upset, but I prefer somebody who's done it already. Ron Rivera. This last one ain't happening. This man's going to get a head coaching job, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe nobody wants to hire him. For whatever reason, nobody wants to hire him, and he's available. He's not going to be available. He's not going to be available. Mike Vrabel. Just imagine that. We bring in Mike Vrabel, and then, God forbid, it doesn't work out, and Mike McDaniel's out, and then Mike Vrabel just becomes the head coach. Crazier things have happened. And no, I've seen this on Twitter, and it just made me laugh. Bill Belichick is not going to he's not going to go and be a defensive coordinator for a division rival. No, he's going to become the Atlanta Falcons head coach. Like, come on. No, Bill Belichick, get out of here. Like, just like Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel's probably going to go become the head coach of, I'm trying to think of teams that need a head coach, because Raiders already got shored up. The Chargers got shored up. Panthers, possibly. I'm trying to think of head coaching openings, and my brain is just not working when it comes to it. But Vrabel's going to get a head coaching job. But if he doesn't, if Mike Vrabel somehow does not get a head coaching job, put him above Wink Martindale as the guy I want to be defensive coordinator. I'm going to keep an eye on Mike Vrabel. Let me look up head coaching vacancies. So you got Gerard Mayo is the New England head coach. Antonio Pierce is the Raiders head coach. Good for him. I'm glad he stayed there. Brian Callahan is now the Titans head coach. That was quick. Jim Harbaugh is the Chargers head coach. So you got the Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons, Commanders, Seahawks. I think Bill Belichick's going to go to Atlanta. I wouldn't be surprised if Vrabel doesn't go to at least Washington, Seattle, or Carolina. I could probably see Vrabel going to Seattle. But I'll keep an eye out if he doesn't. But the guy I want, again, before I end this video, is Wink Martindale. That's who I want. That's who I want as our defensive coordinator. Now, will he, or will it be an internal thing? We'll see. But I'll keep you guys updated when the news breaks, or any updates, or any candidacies. Hopefully it's not like last year's Vic Fangio thing. He's signing, he's not signing, he's signing, he's not signing. Hopefully it's nothing like that. But I'll give you guys updates. But on to our regularly scheduled program. Tomorrow, I'm going to make it. I've got a ton of videos planned for you guys. This threw a monkey wrench in my whole schedule, but I love it. I get able to give you guys content and talk about stuff. So comment below, let me know what you think. Who do you want? Who's on your list, and who's your number one candidate? Comment below, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Like usual, stay classy. My Finn's out.